All right, everyone, welcome. This is the Design to Scale Masterclass. I'm excited to have a former client of mine and who's become a good friend, Vijay Sondhi, with us. And I'm looking forward to a fun Saturday afternoon. At least it's Saturday afternoon here where I am. I'd like to ask that everybody please mute yourself. And I've got lots of time for questions, so I'm going to take questions as we go. And if you have a question, I'll have you raise your hand on the Zoom window, and then I'll ask for your question and I'll answer it in real time. Okay. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Lex Sisney. I'm the creator of organizational physics. Organizational physics is basically a way of thinking about and structuring your business so that you can have more success and satisfaction from it. And I'm hosting this masterclass, I think, for three reasons. One is I want to share these principles. I've been working on them for over a decade, and I know that they work, and I like to teach. I like to teach these concepts. So I'm looking for new avenues to teach and to share. I also want to invite people to try out some of the tools we've been building. These are tools based on the principles that you can use in your own company of any size. And third, I'm always interested in establishing new relationships with growth CEOs. So if you're a funded expansion stage company, this is an opportunity to get to know a little bit about organizational physics. And if it resonates with you, we can schedule a coaching call or an intro to coaching and see if it's a fit for us to collaborate together. So that's why I'm doing these things, and I want to appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to sit with me. And this is informal, okay? I like I like to have fun. I like to learn, and so I'm hopeful to hit those two goals as well during this call. Let me introduce our special guest, Vijay Sondhi. Vijay, I'm going to give you the Vijay's formal bio, okay, and then I want to tell you what I really appreciate and admire about him. So Vijay is the Chief Executive Officer of NMI. He is a very accomplished fintech executive and investor. Uh, he's ran Visa's CyberSource and Authorized Net businesses. He's been the head of Visa corporate strategy, and he launched Visa's flagship One Market Innovation Center. He served as CFO for three private equity and venture-backed companies spanning a wide variety of fintech solutions, includes ERP, accounting, point of sale systems, hospitality, reservations, and billing, plus financial document management. He's raised a ton of private capital. He's executed mergers and acquisitions. He's oversaw initial public offerings. Okay, so this is a very experienced individual. Uh, he's had senior roles with Oracle, Micros, Fidelio, OpenText, IXOS, and SAP. He has an MBA from Columbia Business University and a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from the University of British Columbia. Vijay lives in San Francisco with his wife and his two daughters. He's passionate about cycling and skiing. Okay, so that's the formal bio. I get to work with a lot of CEOs around the world. Okay, what I want you to know about Vijay is I've learned a ton from him on how to have a positive, a, appreciative mindset as you go through life. And so I hope that some of that, I know it will. I know it'll come through in our interview today. But I really learned a lot from him. I really admire him for his approach, his philosophy to life, towards work, and it's kind of this deep, positive intelligence, and it's really cool, very rare. So I'm really grateful to have Vijay on the call. Vijay, would you say hello?
Sure, Lex. Thanks so much for inviting me to this webinar. And I have just a ton of gratitude to you, Lex. The body of work that I think is your life's work: organizational physics, the concept of finite time and energy. Every system is in a state of decay from the moment it's born, including organizations, and all of the rest of it has really helped transform not only our business here at NMI, my job as CEO, but I would say also my personal life. So I really do appreciate everything you've done, and I'm so thrilled to get into it.
Awesome. So I want to give you an outline for the call, everybody. And so what I'm asking is you give us some time and energy today. And if you can do that, I'm gonna give you theory on how to design your business for the next stage of growth, real applicable, real world theory. And then part of that is you're able to create very vivid role clarity and accountability across the org. I want to kind of talk about, because of the thought process we will go through, how it allows you to make smarter senior level hires that stick around and thrive, improve cross-functional coordination and teamwork, free yourself to work much measurably more on the business rather than kind of stuck in it. A lot of times I get hired when I'm helping a company. They have a core business that's that's scaling up, and now they're struggling to launch the second business unit. So I want to talk about how to do that and basically how to drive faster, smoother strategic execution at scale. Okay. So Vijay, give us a snapshot of NMI, and then if you don't mind, I'd like you to go back. We coached together about 2 years ago in June. Okay. Now my coaching engagements are pretty short, right? They're like only 6 to 9 months. I have a philosophy of, all teachers should be temporary. So it's been some time since we coached. Okay. You've been giving me periodic updates though, which I really appreciate. So tell us a little bit about the business and take us back to what caused you or made you want to potentially coach with me back then.
Sure. So let me tell you a little bit about NMI. It stands for Network Merchants Incorporated. It's not a great name, but we do have a 3-letter domain name, so that's kind of cool, nmi.com. We are an embedded payments infrastructure software company. That's a real mouthful. Essentially what we do is we provide payment connectivity so that people can take credit card payments online, in-app purchase and on a phone, at a point of sale, at a toll road, at a vending machine. And we connect like a multiplexer to about 200 banks and processors. And so we are a B2B to B2C company, and I'm not stuttering. We're a business that sells to another business, usually a software company or an integrator that implements our software and their software. They sell to a business, consumer takes a payment. And we have pretty good scale. We process over $200 billion of payment volume. We're actually getting close to $250 billion. About 400,000 merchants rely on us, and we process probably about 6 to 8 million transactions a day. So we punch above our weight class because we are a tiny company in the greater scheme of things, about 500 people. But 500 people doing $200 billion of payment volume through our pipes is something we're very proud of.
Yeah, maybe also of interest to the audience is you've been kicking butt the last 2 years in a down market. Kind of
So we've been. I live in San Francisco, where the sort of epicenter of venture capital, and until recent times of high interest rates, the epicenter of loss-making companies. And we are very traditional, old-fashioned. We believe in free cash flow. We believe in profitability and profitable growth. And so what has happened recently is we've been growing quite dramatically. COVID, which was a terrible epidemic, and so many people were hurt by it, had some strange sort of effects that we didn't count on, which is people started buying more online, and payment innovations were needed fast. Buy online, pick up at store, and that actually accelerated the growth of our business in the last couple of years. I'd say 2.5 years, we've almost doubled the size of our revenue and our profitability.
Nice. So let's think back when you first reached out to me. It was summer 2022. Can you kind of recall what you were thinking and feeling back then?
Well, I reached out to you in summer of 2022. I don't like to remember that because I live near the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and I was thinking about getting on there, maybe jumping off, because I had no idea what to do. We had just closed a massive private equity investment. We are private equity backed, so we had done a deal at a valuation. It was leaked to the press at about $1.5 billion valuation. So it's good valuation. And we had a new investor out of New York City. And when one investor comes in here, they want you to go here. That's why they paid a high price. And I knew that what had got us here, the old saying from Marshall Goldsmith, what got you here won't get you there. I knew that. I knew I had to re-engineer the structure, the people, the strategy, and I didn't know how to do it. I was pulling my hair out, and I literally was like, maybe I'm just a failure. Maybe I'm just good enough to take a company to $100 million in revenue, which is where we were at, but I can't do it to the next step. I just don't know what to do. I was in absolute despair. And that's when another person who had coached me in a different area around culture He said, Vijay, you seem really distraught. You seem like you're at the end of your tether. And I said, yeah,
Hmm.
I'm lost. And he said, well,
Hmm.
talk to this guy called Lex Sisney. He's an organizational architect. You wouldn't
Yeah.
build a house without an architect, would you? And I said, no. And he goes, well, you're trying to build the structure for going from $100 million to $500 million. So
Yeah.
talk to him. And that's when I
Yeah.
called you.
Yeah. Right on. So that's a good backdrop. And for the people just joining the call, if you have questions as we go, I want you just to raise your hand and I'll answer your questions in real time. Also, for the participants in the chat window, I put a Google Doc that you can click on that has links to the things we're gonna talk about, free resources and things like that. So take advantage of that if you're wondering how to access some of the tools we're going to talk about. So, Vijay, on my screen is a concept from organizational physics. Okay, this is what I call the execution diamond. It's a very simple picture. There's actually a lot of depth here, but the idea is a CEO is accountable for, basically five things. Okay, like which I mean, you can get help, but you cannot delegate. You got to own it, right? The M in the middle represents mass. Okay, and so mass means resistance to change. You know that very well right now. Okay, at this point, but we all are dealing with managing the mass. That's fundamentally what you're doing as a leader is you're trying to get your organizational mass, okay? It's resistance to change with a big head of momentum headed on the right strategy, yeah? And it's everywhere. The mass is everywhere. It's in the market, it's in the customers, it's in the systems, it's in the people, it's in you, it's in me, it's on everyone in this call. It's there. So probably first step is to recognize there's a resistance to change. And this is a little mental model. Just think about, okay, a CEO has these five levers. That's it. Okay. Top of the line is strategy, most important, I believe, because if you zig and the environment zags, see you later. Like you can do all the cultural enrichment you want, your business is going to be around long enough for it to matter. Okay. Then there's culture and there's people, and every business person in the world knows this, right? What's the secret to business success? You ask anybody. Well, you got to have a good strategy with differentiated capabilities and blah, 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 blah. You got to have great culture and you got to have great people. Okay. But what I'm trying to coach and teach around is actually below the line here is that structure and process. Okay. So structure is it's not the org chart. It might look like an org chart, but it's actually not the org chart. Is the functions that need to be in place to drive that strategy. And process is fundamentally the process of decision making and implementation. So you might think of structure like the musculoskeletal system. If my hip's out of whack, I'm gonna be in pain. Not much I can do. So I got to get alignment. But process brings it alive. Process would be like the neural net that brings it alive. Okay, so that's the concept. You got to gather the mass as a CEO. You've got these five levers to push or pull on. All right, Vijay, let's start from the top. What is your reflection at this point, 2 years later, on strategy? Tell us about strategy.
Sure. So strategy has always been one of my strong points. I was very clear when I said I was desperate because I didn't know what to do. I didn't have an issue with strategy. This company has been around now for 23 years. I was brought in by investors to run it 6 years ago. So strategy was solid. The payments market is growing. People are using more and more credit card payments, and software is eating the world. I like to say payments is taking
Yes.
out a bite, and NMI helps software take out a bigger bite. And so we just
Mhm.
know that our strategy is solid. We knew what we were doing. We had a vision that was very clear. So I think we were good on strategy. It was in the rest of your diamond where things started to get a little bit trickier.
Yeah. So what's interesting to me about strategy, I think back then you actually had a philosophy. Okay. You had an overall sense of where the market macro trends are and what you wanted to do. But that hadn't translated yet into a life cycle based strategic imperatives. Okay. And I'd like you to talk about that transition from like a strategic philosophy to like really honed in strategic imperatives with an owner for each one. And how has that made a difference?
Yeah, I'm glad that I kind of live at 30,000 feet because I think that's what
Yeah.
a CEO should live. And you're
Yeah.
reminding me that when you look out of the airplane, there are these little blue dots in their swimming pool. So yes, you are right. We had a
Yeah.
good vision,
Yeah.
but the strategy. So execution without a vision without execution is hallucination, and I think that's what you were pointing at. So I had the vision, But the strategy in terms of people that would own it wasn't clear. And so one of the things that you did, Lex, is you said, we need something called strategic imperatives, not strategic initiatives, strategic imperatives.
Yep.
And you walked me through a process. Now, your coaching is genius because you asked a bunch of questions, and then I knew what it was. I was like, well, I think it's pretty simple. It took a few iterations,
Yeah.
but we were able to roll out 3 strategic imperatives. I can share those if you like now or later.
Why don't you tell the group what those imperatives are for reference?
Sure. So I never had the concept of strategic imperatives because I had the vision in my head. I knew what we needed to do. I knew the market
Yeah.
opportunity, but I didn't realize that everyone else in the company had a slightly different version of
Slight nuance.
how that
Yeah.
vision would come to be. Everyone knows software is eating the world. Everyone knows
Yeah.
payments are important. But what does it
Yeah.
mean for us? And how do we all sing from the same hymn sheet, so to speak? So strategic imperative number 1, we call them SIs. At this point, 2 years later, Lex, every person in our company can name that sleepwalking
Yeah.
or without any energies. SI number
Yeah.
1, strategic
Yeah.
imperative number 1, drive revenue growth and partner satisfaction.
Okay.
SI number 2
Yeah.
is to deliver on what we call embedded payments.
Right.
And we've had a vision, but we got to deliver on it. And
Yep.
strategic imperative number 3 is agile business operations. I took something from what our software engineers do called agile software development, and I said, but we need to do this for the entire business. And
Yep.
we recite those SIs at every town hall, every meeting. Everybody aligns to them.
Yep. And each SI has a big, we call it big implementer or owner or single threaded owner that owns that imperative. Yeah. So there's 3 different individuals.
Yeah, and I think that was critical. If we just get to a little bit of sausage making or inside baseball, like you
Yeah.
remember initially I had five strategic imperatives.
Yep.
And I tried to socialize them with my C-suite, and everyone had a different opinion. And I was trying to drive consensus, so we got to 5, and then eventually one day I was like, "Screw this! I'm the CEO. I need to take a decision here. Rapid decision making is the number 1 leadership imperative." And I whittled them down to 3. And one of the things that always hurt me before I met you, Lex, was I felt as CEO, I was in charge of everything. The buck stops at the CEO. I had this monkey on my back, and it was just my monkey. And what you helped me understand is you need owners of these 3 strategic imperatives, or what you call implementers. And that's really important because you can't be a conductor of an orchestra if you keep playing the instruments. You can't be the coach of the football team if you keep getting on the field and going, "You're a crappy quarterback. Give me the ball. Let me throw it." It doesn't work like that. In sports, it's not allowed. It's also not allowed in the symphony orchestra. So we have three SI owners, or we call them implementers, master implementers. One of them happens to be our CRO. One of them happens to be our head of product, and the other one is our head of business alignment.
Right.
And they then were tasked with coming up with what are the annual goals, what are the OKRs, objectives and key results, and who should be on their support team. So I wasn't doing it. I set the vision, and I said, here's the 3 pillars of the House of NMI. Now, Rob, you go and figure it out.
Right.
And, Billy, you figure that out. And Kate, you figure that out. And come back to us when you're all done. And we made them do that in an extended leadership team meeting. So there was peer pressure. And they were like, oops, I got to figure this out. And that was a huge difference.
That's good. So I want to give a little color to the group here. Those imperative owners for the strategy are born from the structure. Okay. And the structure is designed for that strategy. That makes sense to everybody? Okay. So you just happen to be the CRO by title, owned the first imperative, but it was based on what role is this in the structure. Okay. There's a very important distinction there. And then the other thing is that this isn't a design and done, this is like a living, breathing organism. And so the process that we use, I used to call the leadership team process. I'm now calling it the strategic execution team process. So you hear me use both terms, but they're synonymous. That process has to come alive and energize the whole thing. So let me just give a couple. I'm going to focus this call here below the line on structure and process, because that's where the leverage is. Essentially, if you're looking at this chart and wondering what the hell it means, like just tune in with me that you can take the same core culture, the same core team, put a new structure, improved processes in place, improved operating model in place, you will scale. Assuming there's market demand, right? You will scale much easier, much smoother, just working these levers. And so, if I want to just kind of touch on the signs you know you need to change your structure. So one, there's a change in strategy. The second, though, that you're moving from one life cycle stage to another. So let's say you have product market fit and you're being pulled forward by market demand, and that's a life cycle change. Okay, you're going from nail it into scale it, and I guarantee your nail it structure is not suitable for the scale it stage. Sometimes, though, the real indicator that you have a structural imbalance is that you're trying to launch this new R&D unit, this new initiative against a core, and it's failing. It's like a stillbirth. The the real irony I found, and like doing this hundreds of times, is that most CEOs don't realize they have a structural imbalance, structural issue, until they try to launch that second unit. And then we go through the process of changing the structure, doing this, putting in a new structure, new process, and their core business takes off much easier. So you don't know what you don't know until you, like, I don't know, walk in the new shoes, I guess is a better way to put it. And the other thing is that CEOs just frustrated. Like Vijay was saying, like, hey, yeah, it was hard. I don't even want to think about that period. So those are all signs you probably need to look below the waterline to structure and process. Vijay, any color you want to give on those signs?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, that diamond chart, I call it the diamond chart, with
Yeah.
the fulcrum. It seems very theoretical. And when you first showed it to me, I kind of was like, oh man, this looks like, McKinsey, or it's so theoretical. It didn't
Yep.
resonate with me.
Yeah.
2 years in, this one chart, if I have to choose one thing, everybody in my company knows this, because you have really encapsulated. So a couple of things I'd throw in there. We talked about the strategy. I had a vision, not a strategy. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
But then I had a strategy, and then I had 3 implementers. And actually, it's really important we don't call them owners in Lex's terminology, because an owner, it's all about me. An implementer is somebody that implements something and has a support team.
Yeah.
Okay? It's a nuance, but it's very important. So we have the strategy. Great, good. Now what do we do? So it turns out that people usually in life, I think, I used to do this before I knew about organizational physics, you immediately go to the people. It's Billy, Bob, or Sue's problem. Bill is a terrible revenue officer. Let's get a new guy. Sue's not very good at HR. If I just had a better HR person, everything will be good. And you devolve into this Billy, Bob, and Sue. Well, Billy's this, Billy's that. Well, he's positive, but I really like Joe because, I went to his wedding. And what Lex did to me is he forced me to remove the names. And he said, don't focus on people and culture. People is very hard to change. It's very costly. It takes time. And culture takes forever to change. But structure and process, you could have the same people on your, let's say, soccer team. Lex, I don't know if you remember telling me this. You said, well, if Joe's not a good goalie and you don't have any money to go to the draft and get a new goalie, put him on forward and take Bob, who's at the left, left forward, put him in goal. Maybe that'll change. What do you got to lose? You're desperate. So you can play with the structure quickly. It doesn't cost any money.
Right. That's a good point.
It costs zero money. You just move people around on the team. If you watch sports, they do it all the time. This guy's on defense, put him on offense. This guy works on this line, move them around. And so the structure and process are really important because they cost no money. You can do them very quickly, and you can undo them. You can say, hey, you used to be goalie, now you're forward, now you're defense. Try it out. And process was another part that I didn't have under. But what you did, Lex, was for 2 weeks, you said, let's design the structure of your company and go through every function that's needed to run a software company. But you're not allowed to
critically for that strategy. Keep going.
For this strategy that we had just already set when I worked with you in the first week. And you said, but you can't talk about names. And I kept on talking about Billy, Bob, and Sue. You said, no, don't tell me the name. I don't want to know the name. I said, okay, well, I need a head of support. I need someone that develops software. I need a finance head. I need an HR head. And I kept on going, well, but so-and-so is pretty good. He said, don't talk to me about names. For 2 weeks, I had to slap myself and go, stop talking names.
It's hard.
And we developed this structure in the coaching. And Lex has some amazing tools. And then we had this blueprint, an architectural blueprint of the perfect house for this family. And it had 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and a basement. And it had all the things you need in a house. But it didn't have any names of people. And that was step 1, was the no name structure process. That was really important.
I'm glad you reinforced that. That's important. some of the benefits I've seen when you do deploy a new structure and this new operating model or leadership team set process is almost immediately you'll see more energy, teamwork, and momentum. It's so shocking. And that part of that I think is due to just vivid role clarity on the team. We're pushing, but by the way, why this is misunderstood, I think. But the reason to have a structure is not for control, it's to push authority deep. It's the opposite. It's actually to decentralize, to push authority deep. And so you do that and you start to match authority and accountability where the work's getting done. And if, people by nature are intrinsically motivated and talented and creative and like let them loose, at the same time, you can't just delegate everything. You'll go out of business, right? There's systemic risk you got to protect from. You'll see improved cross-functional coordination, improved metrics and decision-making, especially at the set team, the strategic execution team, a faster execution on the biggest, most important things, and then the ability to like dial up or dial down, dial up for growth or dial down for profit control. All those are kind of baked in. Any color here you want to add, Vijay?
Yeah, there's a really important point that you said, Lex, and it's funny for me looking at the words on the page because, again, when I started working with you, it seemed very theoretical, but there's so much wisdom of here. This is a minefield of golden nuggets here.
Yeah.
And one of the ones that I want to just focus in on is the structure part. You want to have hyper vivid role clarity. I used to have someone that was a president, and they were in charge of sales, marketing, and CFO. And it was a disaster because when I asked about sales, they said, well, I'm busy on finance stuff. And I said, but the books aren't closed. Well, I'm busy on marketing. And you get this like, what is my role? I have 4 jobs. And then you get someone else that goes, it looks like Joe over there is not very good at his job. So let me step in and help him out. No. If you are on a sports team, if you're a goalie, your job is to stop the goals from going in. You don't score. If you get out of your goal, people will score on you. So you want everyone to know what their position is on the team. And then as you said, they ratchet it up and then they get really creative. And by the way, the other thing that you said to me, Lex, you said, once you get this structure in place with vivid role clarity, there will be nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what you meant. And I had a couple of people in the company on my team who had multiple goals because they came out of a startup environment where everybody does everything. You're a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work when you're scaling a business. And I didn't know what you meant, but it was clear when everyone knows what their role is. If you're a bad goalie, it's clear like people are just shooting, not even good shots, and they're going in. So there is nowhere to hide, and the accountability automatically bubbles up. And now I'm not the traffic cop saying, here's your parking ticket. Everyone sees it. And even what happens is a couple of people resigned and said, you know what? I didn't know, but I'm not very good at goal.
Yeah.
I don't actually think I should work here anymore. Other people, I had to, sort of say, I don't think you belong here. You're a great person. So this structure thing, it is so layered like an onion. There's so many things to it. But if I had to have one thing you got to remember about structure, vivid role clarity is an automatic accountability enforcer.
Yeah. One interesting thing to add to that might be the concept of what we're actually doing is we're stripping away competing accountabilities. Think about it. We're stripping away competing accountabilities. But this is what you need to do. This is the focus. This is what matters. Yeah. So I want to give the group here some ideas on how to do this. Okay. How to actually energize this in your business. And to be clear, I wouldn't do these activities if you are if you're pre-product market fit. Okay, these concepts really come alive at post product market fit. You have a growing business, you have product market fit, you're kind of being pulled forward by market demand. Congratulations, now you're going to inherit a whole other set of problems, and this is when you want to deploy these rules of structure when you're designing your structure. So the most important one is number 1, like I already said it, strategy or life cycle changes. You got to look at your structure. If you don't change your structure, the inertia of the old organization will continue. It's like a law. It's a law of physics in a way. What about this one, Vijay? Don't allow short range functions to control or overpower long range ones. What's your experience with that one?
Yeah. So what I really liked about this one is um, the concept of, we have to make quarterly earnings, and there are a lot of things that we have to do on a daily basis. But we also have a long-term vision, right? If you guys
Yeah.
remember the Stephen Covey matrix of, the four things you want to be doing: not urgent, highly impactful. But often we do the things that are very urgent and not so impactful. So this one is a little bit like, I try to tell my salespeople, you're feeling really great about stamping out a bunch of ants. You're closing a lot of $1,000 deals. We need to bag an elephant. We need $1 million deal. We
Yeah.
don't need $1,001 deals. We need one $1 million deal. So you really need to focus on long range, bigger impact. And when Lex walked me through the structure, his structure mill, I think you called it, kind of automatically teases this out.
Yeah. I'm going to show the group the structure map. It's called the map. Yeah. So this one, like number two, you'll don't allow short range to overpower long range. It will naturally overpower everybody, right? Like think of your own life. You're under the grind at work. You just want to get over the hump, and then you can take some time off and really think and reconnect and restore your soul. Same thing's true in business. Like you'll see this, but you'd never put sales in charge of marketing, brand marketing. You shouldn't put sales in charge of brand marketing. If you do, you're going to get a garage sale. You're going to lose the ethos and the essence of your brand. You're going to miss where the market's headed. It's going to be all fire sale all the time, right? So don't allow short range to overpower long range. This third one, it takes the most reflection I found. And efficiency just means dial things in tight, make it tight. Okay. Tight, repeatable, quality, Six Sigma, scalable, all those noble things, quality, efficiency, scalability, those require efficiency. It means little wasted time and effort. By law, that means tighten things up, dial things in, get them right. Yeah. Effectiveness, though, is about breaking glass, man. Figure it out in a changing environment. You know, those all of these things are polarities. All these things compete for finite energy and time. Basically, just don't allow your organization to get so efficient that it loses its effectiveness. Okay. So intuitively, you never, like, people just can get this really quick. Like you never put uh R&D under operations, right? You'd never do that. You go, well, no, there's no space. There's no like ability to try stuff and do new things. You'd never do that. Like your gut just goes, no, that's wrong. Like you don't even have to know the rule to know that that's wrong, right? But you'd be surprised how many times you had to have a head of quality doing R&D, you know, things like that. So it happens all the time. And if you have this language, you have this lens, you can start to go, oh, well, that's going to get to some predictable negative results. Okay. Uh, No, there's some other rules here. Basically, don't allow centralized control. People want to control, so you got to design the organization to prevent that. Part of that's culture, part of that's people, part of that's process, part of that's structure. Just be mindful that there's this tendency to try to over control, and you got to break that as a leader. You got to break that. Okay. Uh, and we want to put people then into roles where they can really focus and thrive. And then I mentioned earlier, like process is what brings structure alive. So those are the 6 laws of structure we use. And the first thing we do is we start with strategy. Okay. If you haven't seen this, there's a tool on my site. You can use it in a free 30-day trial. It's called the strategy, top level OKR strategy survey. You'll find the link in the helpful links in the chat. But basically, this is what I did with Vijay and what I do with all my clients is we first figure out where you are in this map. And then based on that, what is your strategy? What do your strategic imperatives need to be? Okay. And the goal is perpetual renewal, right? We're trying to get the core business into the state of flexibility, stability, sales, profits, innovation. And from here, we can really launch and grow new business units. So the act here for strategy, because remember, strategy is most important, is you figure out where your core business is first on the strategy map. So here, this core unit, it's in early scale, right? It's serving early majority customers. We have systematized how we sell, service, and deliver. And then there's a company has a new unit. This new unit is down in late pilot it, And so just kind of tune in with me. Like If you had a 13-year-old and a 3-year-old in your house, you wouldn't parent them the same, right? How many companies have you worked with where they try to freaking parent them the same? It's insanity. And so if you just like use this map, I mean, I'm going quickly here, but if you just use this map to like, no, people, got team, like the core unit is getting treated differently, than the R&D unit. And here's why, like, okay. But then your overarching strategy, just like Vijay said, like, 3, maybe 4 strategic imperatives. We need a set of imperatives that are going to move the core unit up here into full scale and swing this new unit up and around, right? Indicated like this. So all you need is to be able to articulate strategic imperatives that are true for your business strategy and your life cycle stage, and then design your structure to support that. Okay, Vijay, anything you want to share on this life
look,
cycle map?
I think that this life cycle curve is so important. And, when I went to business school, we learned this, but it was a little bit like, reading a book about losing weight and dieting. Just because you read the book, you're not going to lose weight. I think with the way you've done it is you've taken this and implemented it. And it was really critical for us because at the time when we worked together, our company had just had its 20-year anniversary. So clearly we had a milk it business, a cash cow. But we knew that, to use the Wayne Gretzky hockey analogy, to skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it is. There was this newer market up here. And so we're actually balancing this graph in 3-dimensional chess because we've got a milk it business. We've got some scale it businesses. We've got some nail it businesses. And right now we don't have any pilots. That bothers me because there's an innovation curve. So this has been incredibly helpful to think about, like you said, if you have a baby in your house, your baby is fully dependent on you. If you have a teenager, your teenager is somewhat dependent and is going to get into trouble if you don't put safeguards. And, if you have a fully grown child in your home, they're probably quite responsible. So we like to think of it like a family of business units. And this has been super helpful to us because now we know, we're like, oh, that's the aging business. Let's invest the minimum amount of money in that software platform just to keep it going. Right. Because it's like a fax machine. One day it'll go out of date. But over here, we have AI powered communications in 3 dimensions. Well, that needs more money and more care and feeding. And that's where you need the creativity, as you were saying. What we found is that in the milk it, we just need the people. Sometimes we call it keep the lights on. Just keep the system running. We don't need new thing. It's an old product. But the lights have to come on because that's where the milk comes from, and that pays for the new stuff. That's the new ones, we need people to go real crazy. Go in a separate room. Be creative. Be like like a person writing an opera, or Picasso writing drawing a painting. Go with no constraints. So different people, different missions, different sets of control, decentralization, centralization.
Now, I'd like the audience to tune in with me. Tune in with the right leader for your legacy unit. I misspelled legacy here. Forgive me. Tune into the right kind of leader here, right? Remember, you're gonna cash cow this thing because market needs have shifted, which means you're gonna make incremental investments that generate ROI. Now, tune into the style of leader you need over this core unit where there's growth and innovation and opportunity. To feel the difference. Okay. In organizational physics, we actually have a code. You can see the code here, PSIU, that we kind of give to each role in the structure. So I need a high stabilizer in the legacy unit. This is a person that can bring systems and, efficiencies and a short range orientation. And I need a producer innovator here, over the core unit. And I need a big innovator over my new unit, right? So it just kind of allows you to think through strategy, structure, people, and it's important. Again, there's a survey you can take to figure out where your business is in the life cycle stage development. It's in the chat window. Okay, good. So here are the steps to go through to design a new structure, okay? So the first thing we do is we set strategy. We've done that. Now we are going to think about the customer journey, the ideal customer journey, the ideal product development process or journey, the ideal employee journey, and what's required to drive the overall strategic execution cadence of this business. Now, every business has those 4 key cycles. Okay. And so customers, product, employees, strategic execution. And we map those out. Do you remember doing that exercise? Vijay?
Very, very much so. And I was very bewildered because you were talking about these things, and I could follow you on the first one, but not on the other two. The customer journey, I get it. When the customer buys the product, implements it, us, it's very
Yeah,
simple. Swipe your
yeah,
credit card, take a payment, get paid. But
yeah,
then you started talking about the product development journey, and I was like, "What's that?" And then you
yeah.
talked about the employee journey.
I
I
was
didn't
like the
think of
worst. I was
employees
like the
having a
worst.
journey.
Yeah, I was like the worst teacher ever. But it's interesting though to think like because notice the human mind wants to go strategy, hierarchy, structure. Okay. Instead, what you got to do is strategy, horizontal thinking, systems thinking, process thinking. Like, okay, for this strategy, what's the ideal customer journey, product journey, employee, strategic execution? And you map those out and you think, okay, what are the functions that are required for each step in that process? Then you can clarify and adopt the structure. Then, only then do you place people. And that's the hardest part. Like your mind wants to go to people, 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 people. And you just got to have the discipline to go, yep, not yet, not yet, not yet. But then what happens is we map processes, we design the structure. We go, yeah, this structure seems to make sense. Then you can place your current team into the new structure and you get a lot of clarity. You get a lot of clarity on, first of all, obviously new hire priorities. Yeah. Cause like, oh my gosh, I have a glaring gap for this strategic imperative. I better fill that. Mismatched role to skill to style, and where people can really focus and thrive. Okay,
Yeah, and
really.
I want to just jump in here because,
Yeah,
as you say, Lex, we get to the strategy. Most CEOs or founders of companies, they have a vision,
yep,
and then maybe some are better than me. They can take the vision and turn it into strategy. You helped me do that.
yep,
And then, as you say, CEOs of companies tend to be charismatic people who can motivate. They can get up in front of a crowd. They can be a Pied Piper. And so naturally, CEOs like myself, we're very empathetic, and we like to be with people, and we don't like to work alone. And so
yeah,
we always want to go to the people. And what you were really good at teaching me was that comes in stage 4.
yeah,
And I think that the mapping of the functions, again, the genius of your methodology is you have developed tools that help someone like me, in my case, map what those functions are. I knew what they were in my head, but you helped me document them in a big one pager, like an architectural
yeah,
diagram of the house, as I
yeah,
mentioned.
yeah,
Um, and it's really, really, really important to get away from that people thing, because you have developed a company over many years or months, and now it's become by osmosis. Billy over there used to be in customer support, and now they run the R&D org because you didn't have anyone else. But
yep,
usually, someone like me was coming to you because we were at an inflection point. We were trying to make the company 4 or 5 times bigger. We had new investors. Everything changed.
yeah,
And so I think it's really important just to go through this in a structured process, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
yeah,
in that way. In that way.
yeah. I would say at least the first time, right? Like you notice you don't need me anymore. Like,
Well, one of the things, just for the audience, Lex is
yeah,
kind of a strange consultant, because I was so happy with what he did, and I said, "Great, I want version 2. I want phase 2." And he said, "There is no phase 2. I've taught you. My job is to be an obsolescent teacher."
yeah,
And yes, and that is great. You taught me how to fish, and then I could go and fish, and then I could do it on my own.
yeah. Good. Let me give the audience here some thoughts then about how to do steps 1 and 2. Okay. So key process cycles. Here's what I recommend. Go to the whiteboard or get out old-fashioned pen and paper and think about see the world from your customer's perspective. Yeah. And the kind of question you're trying to answer is how should we best identify, engage, sell, retain, support, and develop new and existing customers? And just like I, I don't know. I get a lot of pushback that this shouldn't look like a circle. It should look linear, you know. But here's the thing: this is not a one and done. This is the flywheel. Like this thing's gotta have. You gotta get better each iteration. Like I don't want any kind of one and done thinking. You with me? Like I just trying to communicate that concept. And if people want to draw it out linearly, go for it. But the idea is like you got to get really exceptional at this for your business and just think through like the main steps. So like business strategy, I always start there. Okay, so that's our business strategy. Like we need a brand architecture, a brand strategy to generate brand awareness. So we need lead gen. And maybe for this business, we need pre-qualification. And then there's the sales conversion process, And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just, it's simple. Like you don't need to be overcomplicated here. And also one tip.
Hey,
Oh,
Lex, I just want
yeah,
to jump into one thing here because you said it's not a one and done, and you said that to me many times, and now I
yeah,
finally realized. Then you know how many times we've? I'm asking you, Lex, how many times we've changed our structure because this picture has changed without me even talking to you because I only worked with you for a few months.
yeah.
Take a guess. How many actual structural changes we made
Um,
because the business evolved?
minor ones, I imagine a dozen or more. Major ones, I imagine not many, maybe one.
Yeah, we've done in 2 years, we've done one major and we've done 10 little ones
Yeah, I was
because
close
we,
actually.
right? We bought two companies, and so something new came up, and we're like, well,
Yeah,
that's not important anymore. And I keep moving the people around because one of the things you taught me is you said, tell everyone that don't get too comfy in your seat
yeah,
because things are going to change. The world,
yeah,
the only constant in the world is change.
yeah,
And so we told people, don't get too comfy.
yeah,
And you're not, and you haven't been chosen because we like the color of your suit. You've been
yeah,
chosen because you fulfill a function that the company needs at this point in time.
yep,
So the one and done is really important because you're constantly tweaking and changing, and that's your job. Just like the
yeah,
sports coach, constantly
yeah,
trading players, getting a new player, getting the farm team. It never ends. So I just wanted to throw
yeah.
that out there. This is a great tool because you just keep using it over and over again.
Yeah, you keep thinking like this. So one thing I want to say that just to maybe help the audience here is, Vijay, think about how scared, anxious you felt back 2 years ago about the thought of changing structure. It was
Oh my
gnarly.
I mean, I didn't want to change the structure because I was over indexed on the people in my team.
Yeah,
I was really worried that my board of directors would get upset if I'm going to change the structure.
yeah,
And a couple of people, they have become good friends of mine. You know, you work
yeah,
with people, 24
yeah,
7, you become good
yeah,
friends.
yeah.
And Lex was kind of like, helping me. And I was like, well, I know what the structure is, but I can't do it because of the Billy Bob and Sue problem. I
Right.
can't do it because that person's in your retirement. I can't
Yeah,
do it because that person just got married. I
yeah,
can't do it because that customer will be upset if that person doesn't work here. And it
yeah.
was all not in service of the people or the company. And now we do it all the time. And now people
Yes.
know. And now they
So,
expect it. And they go, oh, Vijay just made another change.
yeah,
Well, that's because he's a great CEO and the company changes and we have to adapt to the marketplace.
there you
And now
go.
it's become part of the structure.
Yeah.
And, when we
It's
remove people
become
from the
actually
company,
it's become part of the culture. Is what I want to illustrate for everybody. Okay. So that first time's hard. But that thing that you said is really important. Okay. You got to always do the right thing for the company. And as CEO, if you're messaging like, hey, this is the role I need you to play, don't get comfortable. This is a team I need you on right now. Don't get entitled. You know, like ego's at the door. I'm changing this team. I'm changing this as needed for the mission. And if you just start to, the first time's hard, I get it. But if you just start to communicate that up front, you give yourself way more flexibility as a CEO to make downstream changes without creating a lot of disruption, you know, and the culture starts to shift. I
well, and
think,
there's just one
yeah,
other thing is that you put on the other slide there that you want people to be in roles that they thrive in. When people work in, has anyone on this call ever been in the zone? You lost track of time because what you did, you just enjoyed so much. And you're like, whoa, 6 hours went past. You want to put people in those roles.
yeah,
And what they start to learn is that when I move people around, I'm trying to do it with the intention of getting them into a role that is better suited for their capabilities. Or if we don't have it, then they'll have to go to another company because we don't have it anymore. And so
right.
people get excited about changes because you
Yeah,
tell them, I think you're going to do better in this role than that role because the
nice.
business changed and this is going to play to your strengths.
Yeah, really, really true and really valuable insight. Thank you. So we're in the step one of designing a new structure after strategy, right? You just kind of think through the customer journey. Uh, the don't do this. Don't go, okay, the next step is pre-qualification and then debate what role is accountable for that. Don't leave these blank. What will end up here are the actual roles accountable for each step, but we don't know that yet. We'll know that once we design the structure. But so don't start debating like this. Like just get these gray boxes in lined up. It, like, yeah, this is what should happen, and you can color the ones green that are working well, the ones red that aren't, things like that. If you want to, if you're unsure of your profitability cycle, you can add that in here. Like, just keep it simple. Get on the whiteboard. Don't try to do this on your computer the first time. Use pen and paper, whatever. Get it down and talk about it. What should happen? Okay. Now, uh, you can learn more about these in the my book. It's called Design to Scale. Another big thing in the book Design to Scale is this structure map. So this is what Vijay was talking about, and it's like a forcing function. It's a thinking tool. Okay, so those 6 rules of structure are basically represented here, or most of them are represented here. And the idea is that every function in your business can only fit in one quadrant. You must fit it into one quadrant. In quadrant 1, you're going to put functions of the business. A function, by the way, is like a, for human body, the brain performs a function, the liver, the hearts, the lungs, same thing for your business. Sales, marketing, product, people. That's what I mean by function. So every function in your business should fit cleanly into one quadrant and one quadrant only. Quadrant 1 is where you're going to put short range functions that have to keep effectiveness high, and they're about doing the right thing to get customers. It could be a new sale or a repeat sale. If we were an animal, this is where we would eat. Quadrant 2, you're going to put functions that are digesting. They're short range, they're efficient, they got to do things in the right way for customers. Now, critically, customers are external for sure, but they're also internal. Like think of an internal data and analytics function that would go in here because it's internal customers. Okay. Now, if we were only doing quadrant 1 and 2 well as a business, congratulations, you're running a profitable business because you're meeting needs of customers and you're doing it efficiently. Only problem is the environment's constantly evolving, right? So quadrant 3 is where we procreate, where we innovate, where we develop for the long range. And here it's about doing the right thing for the company. And quadrant 4 would be our immune system, our teeth and our claws. It's what keeps us out of systemic harm. Okay, there's a lot there. Read about it, watch videos, and the links to share doc here, helpful docs. You'll see the structure map download. You can get it right here. Excuse me. The design to scale video, everything I'm talking about, you can kind of either read the book or watch the videos and read the book. So take advantage of those resources if you like where we're headed here. So you take a function like sales, right? It's pretty easy to go, well, it's quadrant 1. And guess what? You're correct. Okay. And but then you get a function like people and you go, well, it's everywhere. Aha. Okay, that's the secret right there. Talk to me about that, Vijay.
So yeah,
everywhere.
there are some really easy ones. So the thing about people, and we call, in the olden days, we called it human resources. Now we call it people. We're in modern time. There's 2 sides of it, right? And they're in complete conflict. We've got somebody who runs the talent organization that wants to recruit the best talent, have them super motivated. They want to throw a party every month and have free alcohol for everyone and have a good time. And then there's this other part of HR that says, don't ever serve alcohol at the party because somebody might get drunk and something terrible might happen. And so, you've got this HR admin, run the payroll, stay in compliance with government laws, don't get sued. And then you've got this talent group that is about motivation and energy and getting the best people and, giving everyone good free stuff. And they are in absolute conflict with each other. So some of these you have to split into their subcomponent parts.
It's perfect timing. My lawnmower care company is outside my window. So you do that and you go, now notice I want people to notice the anxiety that's going to come up. Like, what are you saying? I got to split my head of HR. I got to hire 2 heads of HR, or we don't know. We don't know. We just want you to call out. We want you to call out that these are distinct roles. These are distinct functions in the business. Just like the pancreas is different than the liver, man. Come on. They serve different purposes. I think
people got very bent out of shape, as did my head of HR. Well, what do you mean? Now I have to have 2 people. No, we're just saying there are different hats. So we didn't have the money to hire all these people, but we had all the roles. So then we would say, put on your culture and talent hat and have free alcohol at the party. Put on your HR admin hat. Make sure that people only have a 2-drink minimum. And so it's worked very well for us because certain people are adept, and you can even ask them, what hat are you wearing now? Or they get good at it. They say, with my HR admin hat on, let's make sure we don't get sued for, improper hiring or firing practices. So yes, good point.
I would say that hat wearing is not the goal, though. Like just like running a pro sports team. I need a shortstop. I need a second baseman. Okay. And when I ask my shortstop to play second base, bad stuff happens. Okay. So like you might not have the budget, you might not have the capacity or whatever, but over time, the goal is not to put hats on, it's to take hats off. Like narrow focus, strip away accountabilities is where you want to get to. Okay. So I'm giving this very a quick overview. Again, click on that link if you want to watch videos on this or read the book Designed to Scale. But fundamentally, that's how you build a structure, guys. Like here's a structure, a 4-quadrant structure that I have in my book Designed to Scale. Just notice quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Okay, it's the
And by the way,
same.
this is what allowed us to double the size of our business. Is this one chart? This is like the map to everything.
Yeah,
And guess what? I come and relook at this every few quarters,
yeah,
but it has come to life. And this is
yeah,
the output of all of those tools.
yeah. And so there's a lot of depth here. Like we're not going to get into it, but just like effectiveness, efficiency, short range, long range, and what's the style we want for leader? Now you have a really good map to put people into against, and you can see, oh, I have a really strong head of sales. Thank goodness. Wow, I'm really short on product management. I better get that energized. Yeah. Okay, now let's come back to this diagram here where that's structure. Okay, now we got to bring it alive though through process. Okay, it would be a dead skeleton, we got to bring it alive through process. And for me, the most important process is the leadership team process or the strategic execution team process. So Vijay, we're getting close to wrapping up here, but this could look like siloification. Have you ever heard me support any kind of siloification? No
Never.
silos.
Never.
No,
It's
no
always about
silos.
it's always about we win and lose as a team. And when everyone plays their position to their best of their abilities, we
Yeah,
win the Super
yeah.
Bowl.
So out of this structure, we'll launch a set team or leadership team, and there's a process called the set process or leadership team process. Tell me, we use software, custom software for this, built in Coda. Coda is a web-based database. But tell me what your life and leadership has been like in your set team.
So, I mean, this has been, again, there's so many game changing things, but this is where it comes to life. Everything we've seen so far is architecture. And
Yeah.
now we're talking about execution. This is a 3-hour meeting every Wednesday. And it's a 3-hour meeting with 21 people in it.
Don't
We have a
don't
big,
forget to mention the critical break in the middle because people are going to hang up right now.
that's true. Yes, there is a critical break. But the process is so important because it sets up the meeting to be highly efficient with these stages you see on the left hand.
Yeah.
And there are role updates, there is a facilitator, and there is a scribe. And one of the game changing things for me is I used to run the meetings myself. I was
Yeah.
CEO, I was scribe, and I was facilitator. I can't be the coach of the team if I'm actually, the assistant coach and running the plays and, the water boy as well. So the process, without this, none of this would have worked. It would have been pure theory. I mean, I have a
Yeah.
terrible metaphor, but you read your book on dieting, you know what to exercise. Now you got to actually make the food and eat it. This is
Yeah.
where it happens, and this is where everyone comes together, and life and blood flows through the
Yeah.
veins, and the organism thrives.
Yeah. The part I hate worst or hate the most about this, trying to educate people on this is like, think about all the crappy wasted time meetings you've been in your life. You know, even ones that had an agenda that seemed to like, it's like this checkbox exercise. There's no life there. There's no adjustment. There's nothing valuable happening. Like I hate those meetings. I freaking hate them, you know? So I've
Well, and
tried.
Lex, one of
Yeah.
the things that you told me is I said, 1 3-hour meeting, that's crazy. And you said, yeah, you do this 1 3-hour meeting, you're going to eliminate hundreds of hours of meetings in your company. And that's
Yeah.
what we did because
Yeah.
everyone is in this meeting together and sharing the information. So you don't have to tell the person that tells the person that tells the person. Everyone has it out in the open. You have transparency. I stopped doing one-on-one meetings after this. And
Yep.
I actually reduced the number of hours I'm in meetings, not
Yeah.
increased, reduced.
Yeah.
One big, well-run 3-hour meeting can eliminate 100 hours of crappy meetings.
Yeah. Really good reinforcement there. Okay. So, we've tried to use this very conceptual diagram, right? Like, but there's life there, there's truth there. Like you can like once you get it going, you can like use it as a thinking tool, Okay. Structure and process are cheap, man. They're really cheap. You don't have to spend any more money to energize better structure and better process. That might sound shocking, and it's true. Okay. Vijay, close this or recap now. Think about your life now compared to 2 years ago as leader. Like share what it's like now that you've
Yeah, I mean,
deployed these things.
I told the audience at the beginning, when I called you, I was thinking of jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, metaphorically, because I didn't know what to do. That was 2 years ago. Fast forward, our company has grown by about 80% in size. And my life as CEO is such that I don't have to worry about execution because it's been delegated throughout the organization with the appropriate controls. And so I can spend my time as CEO to be strategic and to think about the next 3 years. And that has made all the difference.
Nice. Uh, Here in the chat window is links to you can access, right? If you want to go a little bit deeper. So this page here is everything I've gone over, but with videos and more depth. So you might check that out. The structure map we looked at, you can download that. An overview of the set team process, really critical. Again, that's what brings it alive is there. I would say if you're sincere about growing your business, then you'd want to read all three of these books. They're on audiobook, right? Which might be a good intro, but like Designed to Scale in particular, like there's a lot of imagery there. You're going to want to have it. It's like a textbook on your desk, honestly. Like I have clients with it, hundreds of posting notes in that thing. Uh, some of these tools, all the tools I used with Vijay and with my other clients are available. You can take them for a free test drive. The strategy map we looked at, you can download that. By the way, Vijay is really fun to talk to, and I really admire his energy and enthusiasm and how well he's implemented organizational physics. But he's actually not unique. So you can go here, real world results. You'll see testimonials from other, in the trenches, CEOs, leaders, case studies. Uh, if you like that kind of thing and you want to like see what others have actually really done, you can go there. And then if you'd like to, I want to say thank you for being on this call. So if you want to take those tools for a test drive, assessments, SWOT analysis, things like that, you can get 20% off a light membership or product sales. So on the light membership, that's like $150 off. Enter the code MC20 and that expires end of month. And then if you're an expansion stage CEO and you're funded and you like this way of thinking, I'm always open to having conversations and I'll tell you honestly if I think I can help you or not. And let's now go to some questions. So one question was, what triggers send you back to structure design? Okay, so I have my answer, Vijay, but you're in the trenches with this. You changed structure once big and went 10 times.
Yeah, so let
Yeah.
me go for the big one. The big one was very simple. We launched a new business. I called it Crossing the Species Barrier. And so that was clear. We used to be a software company that happened to be in payments, and then we started issuing bank accounts, which meant that we were helping our partners get into the banking world. So when you launch a completely new business, new muscle that you don't have,
Yeah.
you will invariably say, whoa, now I need this function and that function. I didn't have them. I didn't need them before, so that's the easy one for the big one. That happened once to us. The small ones, you just kind of know. You go through that weekly meeting. And by the way, that meeting is sacred. I mean, nobody misses that meeting. If I am traveling, I rebook my air travel to make sure I'm at the meeting. I don't care if I'm at an airport. I don't care if I'm on holiday. I will do that. And it just kind of by osmosis. And you sit down at the end of the meeting and you're like, I don't think that function is needed anymore in here because there's another one that's cropped up. I don't have a proper answer to whoever asked that question, but you will know. It will just automatically jump out at you.
Yeah. So I'll paraphrase what I heard you say and what I know from experience is heat surfaces in the set meeting, heat from across the org. Okay. And there's about 9 different ways to judge performance of an individual on the set team. Like it's not really possible to like be a Welch or be like you show up good in a meeting and like a Welch out of the meeting. Like you can't do that in this model. Like the whole thing's designed to see and reinforce transparency how you perform as a team. But let's say heat's coming up, like balls keep getting dropped between one function and another. Okay, well, what role is accountable for that? Catching that? Is it in the structure? Oh, we probably want to look at that. Is that quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4? Okay. And then the big indicators are life cycle change in strategy. Those are the big ones. Okay. But the set team itself is going to reveal to you where the entropy, the heat, the inefficiencies are showing up. And then you got to decide, is that a cultural fix, a people fix, a structure fix, or a process fix? Okay. Next question is, from our perspective, how do we, how do you make a connection to the consultant or coach and the leader, like the CEO, to help get their foot in the door? So you got a referral to me from another coach, is that right?
Yeah, I hired another coach who had helped me a lot with setting the right culture. And then he basically told me, now I am the CEO, so I think the person who asked the question is trying to get Lex on the CEO's agenda.
Yeah.
Look, I think that it's one of these things where there's no silver bullet here. If you have a relationship with your CEO and you can tell them a little bit about the seminar or the book, and your CEO wants it, then it'll happen. But I would just do a summary of what you've heard here, reach out to Lex, have an intro call, and see if your CEO is open to it. And by the way, usually a crisis is what's needed.
Yeah,
Necessity is the mother of
that,
invention. If you don't have a crisis, you don't do
yeah,
anything. You get lazy.
it's very, very true. And I get, I'm privileged. I can be selective about who I collaborate with. I'm looking first and foremost for resonance with principles, with concepts, and if I'm not feeling it, I'm not working with you. And this must start with the CEO. Some exceptions are, multi-billion-dollar company, like a business unit leader that has a lot of autonomy. But the leader's got to have the problem recognition and the resonance with the principles, and then all things are possible. But if the head isn't in the game, the body, forget it. It's not really going to be possible. So fortunately, not much you can do. Another question is, what's the importance of business stakeholders to be transparent and participate in processes?
Oh, I love that question. If I can, I take a stab at it.
Yeah.
So, I used to work in a very large corporation where there was a lot of politics, and no one shared information because information was power. And the last thing you wanted to do was to be transparent. So this is where the Lex calls the CEO the head of strategic execution, or the master implementer.
Yeah.
And for me, being CEO, I can do that very clearly. Thanks for that question, Daniel. So what is your incentive to share information? Number one is, if you don't share information, I will call you out. If your report is not done on Tuesday night before the Wednesday meeting, at the start of the meeting, I will say, everyone did a great job, but these 3 people didn't even have the report done. I didn't read it. You'd say that once. No one wants to be embarrassed in front of their peers ever again. The second thing that you want to do is you get 2 or 3 people that are role models that do a great job of sharing, and they start to become successful. And then the mirror neurons kick in, and people say, I want to be like that guy. I happen to have 2 or 3 people that were just natural role models. And the last one is consequences. If you don't share information and you're not open to being a stakeholder in this new process, you won't be working here very long. And there were a few people that I terminated and took out of the company because they didn't belong in this new organizational physics world. And you fire one person, not because you want to, but because they don't fit, everybody gets on their toes very quickly.
Yeah.
Whoa, if you're not on board with this, you may not have a job anymore. And it then automatically flows, carrot and stick. Carrot is always better than stick. And so if you need the stick, you have to use it.
Beautiful. Vijay, thank you so much. Linda Nura says, that was fantastic, Vijay. So inspiring to hear you tell your story. We're at time, and I want to say, Vijay, thank you so much. Really honored that you were able to join, and I hope everybody was able to benefit. I know a lot of value was shared, and I want to thank everybody for your time, and have a great weekend. My final words, keep entropy low and integration high, okay? Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks, Lex.